meaningful to me and has really meant a lot to me after reading it. White Fragility by Robin Diangelo, Why It's So Hard for White People to Talk About Racism. And I must admit that this was a book that when I first read it, I remember having a lot of feelings as a white person, like, oh God, like, ugh. She's talking about me and these things that are very uncomfortable and like ways that I actually do get tricky and sticky and triggered about race. So this book was just hugely helpful. If you're a white person who has been hearing stuff about like anti-racism and whiteness and white supremacy and you're like, what is that about? I think this is like one of the really good places to start to get an idea of what we mean by whiteness and how like white supremacy culture is so problematic in America and in the world. So let me see. I know I underlined a lot in this book. To say that whiteness is a standpoint is to say that a significant aspect of white identity is to see oneself as an individual outside or innocent of race, just human, quote unquote. This standpoint views white people and their interests as central to and representative of humanity. Yeah, so she talks a lot about how much whiteness is centered in our society, and I think as a white person, you don't even really think about that until it's pointed out to you that like, oh yeah, I'm used to being the majority in most places that I go, and when I'm not the majority, I notice it and I feel weird because it's so alien to my experience. Race scholars use the term white supremacy to describe a socio-political economic system of domination based on racial categories that benefits those defined and perceived as whites. The system of structural power privileges centralizes and elevates white people as a group of people. So yeah, I mean, I could go on and on about this book too and read it, but yeah, I will say it's a very good book, and it really, I feel like, kind of breaks things down for white people in a kind of like whiteness 101 kind of way that I know I needed at the beginning of my journey in race and whiteness. So yeah, another book I could probably do a whole nother video on, just highlighting the aspects about, I think, what are important things for white people to be thinking about. To shift gears a little bit, before I was also talking about that I'm a child psychologist and that I do actually think that medication can be really helpful for folks.